Kaitlan Collins calls Jasmine Crockett unqualified on live TV. Her response shocks all of America. The studio lights blazed. Millions of viewers tuned in. It was supposed to be just another political segment, but the moment Kaitlan Collins leaned forward, narrowed her eyes, and said sharply, "Congresswoman Crockett, with all due respect, aren't you unqualified to be sitting where you are?" The words sliced through the silence. The audience gasped. For a heartbeat, Jasmine Crockett, known for her fiery spirit and relentless defense of her community, sat still. Cameras zoomed in, waiting for her to snap back. Social media erupted instantly, hashtags flying across screens. Some expected outrage, others a defensive rant. But Jasmine did something no one anticipated. She smiled. A warm, patient smile. "Unqualified," she said softly, her voice steady. Maybe by the standards of those who never had to fight for a seat at the table. "But let me tell you something, Kaitlan, and to everyone watching at home." She leaned forward, not with anger, but with heart. "I wasn't born into wealth. I didn't have powerful parents paving my way. I worked 3 jobs to put myself through law school. I defended people who couldn't afford lawyers, people whose voices were silenced every day. If that makes me unqualified, then maybe America needs more so-called unqualified leaders, leaders who know what it means to struggle, to sacrifice, and to serve." The studio audience stirred. Collins blinked, taken aback. But Jasmine wasn't finished. "When a single mother brings me her eviction notice, I don't ask her about qualifications. I ask her how we can fight together to keep a roof over her child's head. When a veteran shows me his empty fridge, I don't check his resume. I roll up my sleeves to help stock it. And when a young girl in my district tells me she wants to be in Congress one day, I tell her, don't wait for someone to call you qualified. Stand up, speak up, and claim your place." The crowd, once tense, began to applaud. Slowly at first, then thunderously. But Jasmine's words weren't just about herself, they were about America. She took a deep breath and continued. "This country was built not by the most qualified, on paper, but by ordinary people doing extraordinary things. Farmers who became soldiers, teachers who became leaders, immigrants who built homes in a land they barely knew. The real qualification is compassion. The real qualification is service. The real qualification is courage." And then, something unexpected happened. Kaitlan Collins, who moments earlier had tried to corner her, leaned back in her chair, visibly moved. Her next words came out softer than anyone expected. "Congresswoman, I have to admit, that's powerful." The tension broke. In living rooms across America, people felt something stir, something beyond politics, beyond party lines. They saw not just a clash on live TV, but a reminder of what leadership could mean when rooted in humanity. That night, clips of Jasmine's response went viral. Veterans tweeted their support. Teachers shared her words with their students. Parents told their children, "See, that's what strength looks like." And in a country often divided by bitterness, for one brief moment, people nodded together. The story ended not with a takedown, but with a breakthrough, a reminder that kindness and courage still have the power to shock a nation into listening. Jasmine later told a reporter, "I wasn't trying to win an argument. I was trying to win back a little faith in each other." And maybe, just maybe, she did. One message. True leadership isn't about being qualified by elite standards, it's about compassion, courage, and service. The applause in the studio didn't stop for a while. People weren't clapping for politics, or for a gotcha moment. They were clapping because they recognized truth when they heard it. As the cameras kept rolling, Jasmine leaned back, her hands folded calmly on the desk. She could have basked in the praise, but instead, she turned the spotlight outward. "You know," she said gently, her voice carrying a calm weight, "this isn't just about me. Every day, across this country, there are people who get told they're unqualified. A young boy with a stutter who dreams of speaking on stage. A woman working 2 jobs who wants to start her own business. An immigrant father who barely speaks English but never stops working so his children can dream bigger than he did. They all hear it, those same words, 'You're not enough.'" Her eyes swept across the audience, then toward the camera, as if speaking directly to living rooms across America. "But I'm here tonight to tell you, You are enough. And don't let anyone tell you otherwise. Because the truth is, this nation has always been moved forward not by the ones who were handed everything, but by the ones who refused to give up, even when the world told them they weren't qualified. For a moment, the room was silent again, this time, not in shock, but in reflection. Even Kaitlan Collins, known for her tough and sometimes cutting interviews, nodded slightly, almost humbled by the moment she had unintentionally sparked. Then came the twist no one expected. A man stood up from the studio audience. He was older, wearing a veteran's cap. His voice cracked as he called out, "Congresswoman Crockett, I was told I'd never make it home alive. I was told I wasn't strong enough. But I made it back. And tonight, hearing you say this, it means more than you know." The crowd gasped, then applauded again. This time, not for a debate, but for the raw humanity spilling into the room. Jasmine placed her hand over her heart. "Sir," she said, her voice trembling slightly, "you are the reason I fight. You, and everyone like you who gave more than you were ever asked to give. You are the very definition of qualified." The man sat back down, tears in his eyes, as others in the audience reached over to pat his shoulder. In that moment, live TV had stopped being about ratings. It had become a living, breathing reminder of unity. By the time the segment ended, Kaitlan Collins herself broke from her script. She looked at Jasmine and said, almost softly, "Thank you for reminding us what matters." The cameras faded to black. But the conversation didn't end there. Over the next days, people across the US, the UK, and Canada shared the clip not as political drama, but as inspiration. In schools, teachers replayed it to encourage students. In small towns, coffee shop owners spoke about it with customers. Even people who disagreed with Jasmine's politics admitted, her words struck a nerve. And maybe that was the real shock. America wasn't moved by outrage, but by compassion. Not by a clash, but by clarity. Jasmine later reflected in an interview, "We've spent too long letting people tell us what we can't do, who we can't be. But the truth is, our shared humanity, that's the greatest qualification of all." And with that, the story left millions not just watching, but believing again. One closing note for narration. The story began with a label, Unqualified. But it ended with a lesson. That kindness, resilience, and service are the truest qualifications we can have. And that, sometimes, one person's courage to answer with compassion can shock an entire nation into hope. In the weeks that followed, something remarkable happened. The clip of Jasmine's response wasn't just replayed on news channels, it started showing up in classrooms, church sermons, workplace meetings, and even family dinner conversations. Strangers were quoting her line, "The real qualification is compassion. The real qualification is service. The real qualification is courage." But it wasn't just words. Something began to shift. A teacher in Detroit wrote on social media, after hearing Jasmine Crockett's response, "I reminded my students that their circumstances don't define their future. Today, one of them told me, 'Miss, I want to be the first in my family to graduate.' That moment changed me." A small business owner in Toronto told his staff, "We don't hire resumes, we hire people with heart. Let's build something meaningful together." And in London, a young immigrant student, who had been doubting her place in the world, replayed the clip again and again. She later told her professor, "For the first time, I feel like I belong. I feel qualified." This wasn't about politics anymore, it was about humanity. Then came another unexpected twist. Kaitlan Collins, who had first thrown the Unqualified jab, invited Jasmine back on her show weeks later. But this time, she introduced her differently. Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett, known not only for her sharp mind, but for her compassion and courage. It was a rare acknowledgement, almost an apology, but more importantly, it was proof that even in the hardest clashes, respect can be earned when kindness leads the way. During that second interview, Kaitlan asked, "Congresswoman, what do you hope people remember most about that night?" Jasmine paused. She could have talked about herself. She could have talked about politics. Instead, she said something much larger. "I hope people remember that titles and resumes fade. What lasts is how you make people feel. If we can lift each other up, if we can choose humanity over hostility, even for just a moment, that's how we change the world." Silence fell again, but it wasn't uncomfortable. It was the kind of silence that comes when people hear something they know is true. And as millions tuned in, across the US, the UK, Canada, and beyond, a shared thought echoed quietly: maybe we are more qualified to love, to lead, and to heal than we've ever been told. That night, the hashtags didn't just read #Crockettiviscolins. They read #Unqualified. One uplifting conclusion. The story that began as a heated confrontation ended as a movement of hope. Jasmine Crockett didn't just defend herself. She reminded the world that real qualifications aren't measured in degrees or titles, but in courage, kindness, and the willingness to serve others. And that's the kind of truth that doesn't just shock a nation. It inspires it.